a spooky fall day. It's middle of October, although some of this episode started a little before that. And I'm getting ready to play with all the things that are kind of wrong with the body with the wood being so messed up. So before I do it, I'm walking around the neighborhood, get a little air, and preparing for the worst. I did the Forstner bit hog out material thing on the pickup cavities, and I'm getting ready to do pickup cavity number 2 to depth, which is a little bit interesting because, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos, I'd say the last one, but I'm doing these kind of out of order, so I don't really know. Could have been 4 ago, could have been the one coming up. This is one of the fun things about building guitars is you get to travel through time and space in the comfort of your garage. Anyway, so using some 3M double stick tape, I know that I'm blaspheming here by not doing the masking tape and super glue trick, but I got a whole bunch of this stuff and I might as well use it. The wood is just, as I mentioned before, unstable enough. Is that what I was going to say? Is that what I was going to say when I said, as I mentioned in a previous, or that's what I was talking about, was the fact that I had discussed how the wood is kind of not terribly even, because even though I'm block sanding it, there's still parts of the wood that are softer than others, and they're sanding way faster. So anyway, it's not a completely flat surface I'm dealing with here, but hopefully it's good enough. I think that'll hold. When you're using this double-sided tape through these clear plexi templates, is you can see where it's grabbing and where it's not. I'm routing away such a small amount of material, I can be pretty gentle. So I'm not too worried about it drifting. It seems pretty solid right now. But double stick tape or masking tape and CA glue, I'd be running into the same problem probably. The one maybe advantage to the second method is the thickness of the tape might help make up for the fact that the wood isn't wonderful yet. Maybe, I don't know. One of the things I'm trying to do here, and I hope it will be successful, is I'm not going to route away the ears here, because I want to kind of have these humbuckers be sort of like P90s, you know, screws to the center to mount it. I'm going to use, every time, this copper sheeting, and I cut it down the center and wrap it around the pickup so we get a little tiny edge of copper, and we'll see stand up just above the body. I think it'll be pretty cool. So I'm going to start routing again. I'm going to finish routing, more to the point. I have a decision to make. I've been contemplating how I'm going to finish the ash part of the top of the guitar. And as mentioned, I love all the little holes and damage that was done from the spalting and whatever other things caused the holes. You know, some boring beetles, who knows what all is going on here. My initial thought was just to leave them raw. You know, leave them so you could physically feel the hole if you ran your hand over it. But man, that wood around all these little gaps is really soft in some places. And also, there were a lot of places where you could see the hole, or what was the hole, but it was full of, compacted rotting wood, beetle poop, something like that. And I was going to leave those just as is, but when I was doing the 3 guitars in 3 weeks, which is turning into 3 months, I left some of those things filled and just stained over them and then finished it. And they're okay, but I'm not totally digging how it looks. So I definitely, so I went in with my little marker tool, and I dug out anything that was like that. So now I have 3 options. I can leave everything as a whole and try to basically just finish the top without getting anything into those, or at least nothing too egregious. Or I can fill them with resin or CA glue or something and then put clear over the top. Or serendipitously, I was literally poking through my my Instagram feed yesterday and saw the thing Ben did about using the hot glue gun and the wood filler glue sticks. And I thought, man, that actually would really solve the problem. Except it would then basically just fill in all my voids with, dark black or dark brown or black or whatever color I chose, and it would just be a flat feature as opposed to seeing any depth. And I like the depth. I like my canyons. So I could flood the whole thing with resin. I could fill just the holes with resin and then clear. Or I could do something like the glue and fill them in and just have large black areas. And I'm going to go with fill the voids with resin, maybe with a little bit of mica in them. And if I do that, I'm going to do that. I'm making a decision. I'm making an executive decision. I'm going to fill the voids with resin up to the surface, fill them all in, and then I will apply a gloss clear over the top and then polish it down. And I did a test on all these things except for the hot glue because I just found out about it. So this part is resin literally taped off and flooded over a piece of the wood. All the voids filled in with either just the resin or resin with some of that mica powder in it. This half is the holes filled with resin and then a gloss clear over the top, and then I polished this part and left this part kind of as is, and I like how that's working. That's probably the right way to go. And as you can see here, I did try putting a little bit of color in, and I like it, but I'm afraid it's going to be too gimmicky, kind of kitschy. There's just not enough figuring going on for the color to do what I think it ought to do. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. I'm still going to think about it. But I'm definitely going to fill these things in with resin and mica. And I might as well get on with that, because if I don't just go ahead and do this and call it the thing that I'm going to do, I will be still futzing about with this 2 days before it's due at the end of December. So, okay, decision's been made. Now let's do it. Now that I've got the body all taped up, I'm going to measure out. I'm using this Alumilite Amazing Clear Cast Epoxy. It's a 2-part epoxy, 1-to-1 ratio. A couple things to know is if you're gonna mix, I don't need a lot for this, but they suggest mixing more than about an ounce of an ounce of resin, because less than that can throw the ratios off, and I've actually run into that before. My daughter does D&D dice with molds using this stuff, and she's better at it than I am. I should probably get her to do this. But anyway, so that just for the sake of trying to keep things equal, I'm going to pour 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. So I'll pour each component into its own cup. I used to have a couple little tiny measuring cups that came with the thing, but they have gone missing. So I'll have to fake it. You want to make sure you're using this stuff in a nice ventilated area. I'm in the garage, the door's open. Once I finish filming the voice part, I got an exhaust fan that will be turned on, so I'll be okay. This is way more than I'm gonna need, but you know what? I think I'd rather waste a little bit than have the ratio be off. It's a little warm today. Normally this will give me, once I mix them together, about 30 to 40 minutes of work time before they really start curing too much. So I'll probably have a little less than that, but that still should be more than enough time to get this done. Now this stuff, this is what they consider the side B. It's a lot more liquid than the other, so I'm going to pour this into that. Right. They suggest letting this stuff sit for a few minutes, and all the bubbles that might be present will rise to the top before you start mixing. I think that's what they said. Let's look, shall we? I just read this and now I can't remember what it said. Yeah, after pouring each side into your mixing cup, let the resin sit for 3 minutes to allow some of the air bubbles to rise to the surface. Once at the surface, you can push them to the side and crush them. So I'm going to wait. All right, time's up. Going to start stirring. Now they say you don't want to stir this hard and fast, it'll introduce bubbles, so very slow. And I'm not going to bore you with this whole process. And now I want to add the tiniest bit of mica powder. You use a little Egyptian gold and a little bit of bronze. And I mean like barely any. You put too much in and it just is going to become a solid color, and I want some transparency to it. That is probably enough. We'll stir it up a little and see. So this is the gold. And now a little of the bronze. Let's see what that does. I think I'm gonna do just a little more gold, and I might, I don't know, I'm thinking now, maybe thinking too much. Yeah, it's and that is starting to get quite interesting. It's still clear, but there's swirls of gold in there. apricot and the bronze are giving it a little bit of an orange tint, which is kind of groovy too. All right, let's say that's what we're doing. And because I am prone to disaster, I am putting this in the tape. I'm going to apply with that. Yeah, look at that. Already a piece doesn't want to stay. So this was definitely the right call. And man, that gold mica in there is really popping. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, I think this was the right call. One of the problems that I'm going to run into is that the little caverns and voids go deeper than the eye can see. And so once I start filling them up, they start draining elsewhere, which is why I taped up like the inside of the pickup cavities. So for the most part, this is working great. I honestly don't know where some of the resin in these two big cavities are going. But it's still drinking it in. It's a shame that I can't keep what I've got mixed for like a day until I know for sure that this has got everything in it needs. But it's not like there's not plenty more where it came from. But yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. All right, it's the next morning. Well, okay, it's the next morning because I did have to put a little extra resin in this area here, down over here, and a couple other places just because it was sinking in. It's an early Sunday morning. I don't have my words yet. Sometimes I don't have my words ever. Anyway, let me take the tape off, and we're gonna sand it down and see what it looks like. This is actually quite exciting. Curious thing, right along the edge where the tape was, in all of these places, it's still a little tacky. But everywhere else is just fine. I wonder why. Anyway, so many thanks to Ben and Dale and the whole team at Crimson and Triton Tools. I won a spot prize. Was it a couple weeks ago? For my little story about the Tunguska guitar's name and the synchronicity of time. And they sent me this, which is perfect timing because I need it. This flat edge is going to be really good for getting up against these tighter areas along the bar, assuming I can't get the bar out now that I put the resin in. I anticipated that being a possibility, so if I can't get it out without causing damage, I'll just leave it there and work around it. If I can get it out, so be it. So this is some cool stuff. I've never seen this before. It's like a mesh sandpaper. And it fits ever so nicely right on the pad. You know, I've been around long enough in this old world to be convinced that I'm not going to see new versions of old things very often, and this is a new version of an old thing that I've never seen before. So, very cool. After level sanding, the low grit sandpaper, of course, you know, made the areas really pretty much opaque, really. So I had to polish them up, and I polished them up to 12,000 grit micro mesh. Ooh. And that's done the trick. I even hit it with a little swirl remover on a polishing pad just to see what would happen. And it's really, really smooth. So I have to figure out how to kind of scuff up the wood. I want to put some color, which I am leaning a little bit towards. Because, you know, a lot of the guitars I've done in the past couple years have been pretty natural wood finishes. And maybe it's time to do something a little interesting. But anyway, it's working, and that's the main thing. You can definitely see down in there. And the mica is doing its thing. I think this is probably as good a place as any to end this episode, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do, if color or not, as I just said. So I want to think about that for a second first, but I don't want to wait to put this up until I figure that out, because it could be tomorrow, it could be in 10 minutes, it could be 3 weeks from now. So thanks for watching, as always. If you could send this off to any of your friends that you think might dig it, like, subscribe if you haven't, all those good things, always helps. And we'll get this thing done. See you next time.